Well, an announcement came out last week which it shook the very industry to its entire core. Richard Fry, who's been a constant and reassuring figure to us all within the industry for more years than probably he cares to remember, is to step down. Richard, say it ain't so.
Yes, that is correct. I've decided that I'm going to step down from the day-to-day responsibilities that I've been operating with and under my business, Green Link International Limited, and also the companies with which I have been supporting and providing my knowledge and experience over the years.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we first met, I think it would have been 1995 when I joined Bigger, and you were working very, very closely with the association on a number of projects at that time. I think we've been friends since then. I'd like to think so anyway. I can think back to a number of wonderful meals we've had, press trips abroad. These press trips were always ones that I always made sure I was attending because they were always beautifully planned and there was always time for those wonderful meals during that time. So it's been fantastic. Take us back to the beginning, Richard. How did you get involved in this wonderful industry?
Well, from a very early age, I was always interested in the natural world. Used to have a great interest in nature, biology, and botany. I used to collect fossils when I was much younger, and birds' eggs. Not wish to be reporting much on that these days, and also butterflies and moths and so on. So there was always that interest in the natural world. And my first work experience was in a very large glasshouse nursery down on the south coast, and that piqued my interest in seeing exactly how horticulture, commercial horticulture, was expanding and growing and so on. And as part of a conversation that I had with one of my colleagues, I then undertook a study for a diploma in horticulture at NDH at the Sparsholt College in Winchester. And following on from that, it was just a chance conversation I had with somebody in the industry. Said that with the type of person you are and the knowledge that you've got, you might find of an interest to use that in a commercial area. And I quite rather like that idea. And so I approached a number of companies. I had some interviews, and one of the companies I did choose, which was not perhaps the most obvious one of the ones that I could have joined, was a company called May and Baker Limited, or M&B, as many older people will know them by. And they had just started a very small and embryonic agrochemical division. The company really were a very major supplier of pharmaceuticals at that time. And I rather liked the idea of joining this group. And it coincided with this plethora of an explosion, if you like, of new chemical actives that were coming out of Europe, out of America, out of Japan. And it was quite an amazing time. And I, if you like, was very, very much at the lower end of the ladder, climbing up this incredible opportunity where diseases and weeds and other aspects of our industry were being controlled and so on for the first time with these, what we're seeing then as wonderful products. And my career from then went from commercial horticulture into agriculture. And then I had achieved a level of success in doing what I was doing in the technical sales and product management side. And I was invited to take over a very small part of their business, which was a department which actually had a small range of herbicides and fungicides for use on turf. And it was then called Sports and Recreation Department, and I renamed it Environmental Products. And it coincided again with one or two new products that were coming that were superseding the standard products of the day. And in fungicide terms, these were mercurial products. And I can remember one instance, which I think will resonate regarding this particular conversation we're having, is that I was doing a survey for golf at golf course level on their use of fungicides to control fusarium. It is what products you're using, when are you using, how many times do you apply it, rates, and so on. And I was in a golf club in Cornwall, I won't mention the name, and arrived at the greenkeeper's shed. And there in the shed was the greenkeeper, stripped down to the waist, mixing in a bucket some powdered mercurial product and water. It was splashing all over the place. He had it all over his hands and so on. And that really resonated with me all these years, because of course now with all the controls, all the technical information and knowledge and so on that's available, that would never happen. But there was that level of, and I'll use the word, but not in a derogatory sense, there was that level of ignorance at that particular time. At that, then the company, May and Baker, they launched a new product that was going to supersede the mercurials, and I just happened to be there at the right time. And that product was a product called Rovril, which had the active iprodione. It changed its name over the years, but literally that product has been in the market until the year 2000. So it had a longevity of 50 years. And I actually launched the original product. And from then on, I brought together a team under environmental products, and we worked with a very, at that time, embryonic range of distributors throughout the country, national distributors. Many of them were family owned, and the owners themselves are the ones who actually made the decisions. And we took a decision not to sell to distributors, but to sell through distributors. And each of the representatives that were employed looked after their group of distributors almost like their own businesses. And it was a matter of territory management. And we increased sales of chemicals through this group, of which was probably only 3 or 4 or 5% of their business, up to at one time nearly 25% of their business. It was just an absolute wonderful range of products that were available for use by golf courses and sports pitches and so on. And it really was quite a wonderful, exciting time.
What decade are we talking about here, Richard?
We're looking at the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So I took over the May and Baker business at the back end of 1979, and it was right the way through. And I left in 1984 to take on another business within the May and Baker portfolio, which was not related to turf. But the business, May and Baker, was owned and had been owned for many years by the French conglomerate Rhône-Poulenc. In fact, May and Baker eventually changed its name to Rhône-Poulenc RP Products. In 1984, the company asked me to take over their international laboratory chemical business, which I did for just over 3.5 years. Traveled the world. It was a wonderful experience. Different type of area of product groups and so on. But I rather had a hankering of going back to my roots, so to speak, forgive the pun. And I set up a marketing consultancy company called Greenlink. And I already had a number of companies who I had kept contact with over the years after leaving the turf business. And many of them said, if you ever formed a company like that, then we would be interested in using your services. And that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. What we've obviously answered to a degree, but what was the industry like back in the 80s? It's been a huge leap to where we are now, but can you describe what it was? It'd be a lot smaller, obviously, and maybe a little more amateurish. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it was. I would say that many of the greenkeepers and groundsmen that I met, there were a few exceptions, did not see themselves, I think, as skilled operators. I think they had a low level of self-esteem, in all honesty, and one has to pat bigger on the back for this, because they brought together the disparate associations that were operating within the UK under this one banner bigger, and immediately set an educational route to enable particularly those people in golf courses to have a conduit from which they were able to obtain more information. Also, I think it was the whole style that was brought to bear, that these people should be seen as being as a profession and not just a job that they decide that they fell into or that they couldn't get a job elsewhere. And that's one of the biggest things that I have seen in the industry, the education side that has been brought to bear over all these decades to the benefit of the industry, and also the way that they see themselves as not what have been used as a derogatory term, grass cutters, but people who actually have got this tremendous opportunity and skills of being able to create the most amazing playing surfaces that we see today, unlike the ones that we see in the television of years gone by, which almost like plowed fields in terms of sports pitches were concerned.
Who were some of the real personalities around in those days? People who you'll remember, never forget.
Well, I'll forget one which will resonate with you as a journalist. A guy called Stan Ellison, who launched at that time the most well-read magazine called Turf Management, and he brought a certain level of journalism which was a bit spiky at times. Certainly, I think that Bigger had an issue in terms of some of his reporting, but it was always an exciting read. It was a magazine that everybody looked forward to reading, and it actually had some very, very good articles in there. There was a young guy who I got very close to because one of my clients was ICI, a young guy called Keith Cleverly, and he was looking to, if you like, do a Mayhem Baker for ICI, and I helped him achieve that result. He unfortunately died at a very young age, but certainly he left his mark with me as somebody who had tremendous enthusiasm and ambition. Other people in the industry, Walter Woods, of course, which I had an opportunity to meet many times, and there was somebody who he was always welcoming, even though he had probably the best job probably in the world so far as golf was concerned, but he never changed. He would welcome you as if he'd seen you the day before yesterday, and it was a very exciting time to be involved.
What would you say you're most proud of within your career of achieving?
I maybe should ask other people to comment on that, but I would say, looking at what had been done in the past, but doing it in a different way, that is still that the way that the products should be promoted and advertised and exhibited, it should be seen. I wanted to do it in a way that was exciting, that was innovative, that was different to what was being done before. I couldn't see the point in just promoting chemicals by just showing pack shots. Why on earth would you do that? Because a pack shot is a pack shot. And so I started to use other images, graphic images that would indicate what the product would do, but the image would be so different that it would stop somebody as they were flicking through a magazine in their tracks and start to read about the product and want to have more information about it. Impact is all about advertising. And if you don't get impact, then it doesn't matter how good your product is, then people will not go ahead and read it. So I wanted to use different methods of getting that message across. And everything from changing pack designs, sacks, identifying that when people saw an advert for Rigby Taylor or any other company that I was doing business with, they would identify that with the advert that they'd seen or the leaflet that they'd dropped through their letterbox and so on. And when they went to exhibitions, there was that carry through of the same theme all the way. and linking, if you like, traditional practices with new age thinking. That's a bit pompous, but you know what I mean.
How do you think, you've answered it to a degree, but how do you think the industry has developed over the years?
Well, the education side of it has certainly increased tremendously, and you've only got to see, as I said earlier on, the type of surfaces that players played on in the past to the billiard surfaces that they play on today. The other one is that I've noticed is that partly because of the quality, but also the quality of the individual that's coming into the industry. The industry is attracting younger people, those more technically aware. Again, seeing the industry as a profession that they would like to be part of, and not just as a job or not just as a career, but as something that they see that they can push the boundaries. And there have been some very, very young greenkeepers and groundsmen that have come in and have really set the standard for others to follow. Technology, of course, has also changed tremendously, and everything from irrigation through to digital recordings of what's going on underneath the surface. New chemicals have come in, which have been tremendously beneficial to those people working in the industry. But I would say that there are still, and I have met in one or two instances, there is still some of the old style of thinking where there are some clubs still who do not recognize the value of their employees. And I think that needs to change. Otherwise, we could well lose some of these new people who are coming in because they might not see that they're not getting the rewards that their skills deserve. The other thing I've noticed is that, and it never happened in the past, but I think it was Peter Allis who was the very first commentator who actually mentioned a greenkeeper's name actually on television. Up to that time, it was just the greenkeeper, or hardly even mentioned the surface that these players were performing on. But he was the first one who actually brought the name of the person who actually created these services to the fore. And I've noticed that is actually happening more. In cricket, that happens as well. And more recently, I've noticed that one or two football commentators have used that and even interviewed some of them actually on television. So I think that's been a tremendous benefit for those people who see that this is a career that they would like to follow. And obviously the Premiership, so far as football is concerned, has brought more money into the game. And therefore, there's been a lot of advances being made that companies can see that this industry has actually got some money that they can spend, and therefore they're prepared to invest in new technology that can be used in these industries.
From a personal perspective, how would you reflect on your own time within the industry?
Oh, I've had so much fun. I mean, I really have. I've woken up in the morning, and every morning I've seen it as a challenge. And I've always got something that I know I can do. There's always been something that I'm looking to the future of wanting to introduce. For years, I went to sleep with a notepad and pencil on my bedside cabinet to wake up in the night and have an idea, and I would jot it down. Not always went down well with my wife, but but yeah, it's just that I'm blessed with good health. I have the Protestant work ethic, which comes from my parents, and I just enjoy what I'm doing, and perhaps that enjoyment is infectious. And I've always said you lead from the front.
Wonderful. Now, you're not retiring, you're stepping back. You're still going to be seen, you're still going to be around the industry, but what are you going to be? You will have more time on your hands. What are you going to be doing with that time?
Well, maybe this is a cliche, but maybe start to dust off my golf clubs, which haven't seen the light of day for a while. It's a game that I enjoy, and at one time played at a reasonable level. but as years have gone past, that either time or other things have taken its place. I enjoy cookery as a hobby. I enjoy looking at a recipe that I've never actually ever had before, and starting from scratch and create. It's that creative side, perhaps, that I like. We enjoy traveling. Maybe have time to a little bit more of that. I enjoy writing, and I might well look to yourself and others who might find that some articles would be of interest, based on what I've seen in the industry, and using that knowledge in that instance. Ever since this news was made, I've had a number of phone calls asking what I will be doing, and we'll have to see how that transpires. I don't want to stop. That's hence the word. I don't like the word retirement, but perhaps do things that at a slower pace. And so yeah, it's and also to follow my interest in wine. I worked for May and Baker. Was owned by a French company, and I worked for May and Baker for 16 years. And traveled many times to their hospitality and research center at a place called Chazé, just outside of Lyon, in the Beaujolais Valley. And if you work for a French company, believe me, there's no way that you can't get involved in wine. And so I've enjoyed drinking it. I've enjoyed studying it, the history of it, and the various grape varieties and so on. So I might indulge myself a little bit more in that, not necessarily the drinking, but more in some of the background of it.
Well, from what it sounds like, it wouldn't be too much of a surprise to see you appearing in the Bake Off next season. But if that is not the case, hopefully we will get a chance to see each other on a frequent basis going forward, and look forward to that. We'll have a lunch sometime, talk about old times. But good luck with everything, Richard, and thank you very much for a little bit of your time today. Thank you.
Look forward to that. Thank you very much indeed, Scott.